Hello, welcome to another bag making class, and these are the materials we're going to be using. So you would need some craft foam, and then you need some lining for the inside of the bag. You would also need the main fabric for the body of the bag, and for me I'm going to be using the sack fabric in red. All right, you would also need your zip for the inside pocket, which you're going to fit separately and then insert in the bag. We'll get to there. You need some hardware as well. So I have some props to be used as the stand for the bottom of the bag, and I have 4 of them. I think 4 will do, and they come together as a set to fit them with these here. I'm going to set them on the side, and then I'm going to use this also as my closure for the bag on the front as a flap that will go over the bag to secure the closing properly. I'm going to also add some leather on the sides of the bag and then as a flap on the bag. So basically these are the things you're going to need. I'm not too sure of the hardware in front of the bag, but when I think it's necessary, I'll quickly grab a hardware as a sort of embellishment on the bag as going forward. So you need your cutting tools, you'll need a scissors, you need your marking tool. So it could be a pencil, a pen, or a tailor's chalk, whatever you can mark with, and it will be visible to you. You'd also need some craft pegs, some pins, and of course your sewing machine to make this project possible. At this point, I would like to say that if you're watching this video for the first time, that you hit on the subscribe button so that you will be notified when a new video is uploaded. Let's get on with it. So for starters, I'm going to bring back the craft foam, and then we talk about the dimensions of the bag. So this bag actually has a very simple design, so a very easy stencil. So I'm not actually generating a stencil to cut out. I've just transferred everything straight onto my craft foam. The size of my craft foam is 18 inches long and then 12 inches wide, and that is how big it is. So as you know, in all of our projects, the craft foam is used to give stability to the bags. So it's actually to shape the bag up. You can use anything you know is possible to shape a bag, but for us we will stick with the craft foam because it's cheaper and it also does the job better. Okay, so you can see as you look at it that I've divided the foam into 3 parts, and the part on my left and the part on my right have equal size, whilst the one in the middle is much smaller. So what I have on the right and on the left, that is 7 inches in length. So from here you can measure from out towards in 7.5 inches, right? Then the center here is 3 inches, and then from out here coming in is another 7.5 inches. So this is what I have represented here. So 7.5 inches, 7.5 inches on this side, 7.5 inches on this side, and the center here is 3 inches. So in essence, it's going to be like this, right? And then the other side is going to be like this, and then this is our back, as simple as it is. All right, so I'm going to start off by stitching my lining and my main fabric together. Okay, so I'm putting the right sides of both fabrics together, and I'm going to stitch. And I'm going to bring back the foam again and explain to you in a minute what I'm actually doing. So you can see that I've left about a centimeter away from the foam itself, and this is where I'm going to be stitching. And I've done that all the way around as my stitch line. This is because when you turn the fabric inside out, you see that the foam takes a bit of space. Aside that we want to be doing an outer stitch, so we have to leave a little room for that. We'll get to that, but at this point the main point to emphasize here is to leave about a centimeter away from the foam on the sides, but not at the top. Okay, so I'm going to stitch all 3 sides and leave one side at the top here as the point where I'm going to be sliding in the foam. So I'll take the foam off, run my stitch on 3 sides, All right, and then I'll leave the top bit where I'm going to slide the foam in, and then we finally close it. Finish stitching the two fabrics together. As you can see, I've turned it inside out, and I told you I was going to leave one part unstitched so that I can slide the foam in. So that's the part. What I've done now is to iron the hem in, so that when I push the foam inside, I'm going to just put the two of them together like this and then run a top stitch on over it. But before we do that, I want us to stitch the flap in. So I cut a flap of size 4 inches wide and then 10 inches long. Okay, the idea now is to try and find the center of what we've just done. So I'm going to fold it into two as usual, just like we usually do to find the center of any piece that we are working with. I'm looking for my tailor's chalk just to put a mark in here to know that this is my center. All right, so this is my center. I'm also going to find the center of this leather, and then I'll match the lines. Okay, so this is where our center is, and so I'm going to match the lines like that. But I want to have an overlap of leather and fabric of about 2 inches here. So this is what I have. I'm going to stitch it down. Okay, so I'm going to just get some pegs to hold it at the corners, and then I'll run my stitch. I'm going to show you how to run the stitch. Okay, so I want my stitch to catch just this fabric, so I'm going to slide this bit like that. I'm going to slide this bit under my machine and run a stitch at about 1 inch seam allowance. So from the leather, I'm coming in about 1/8 and run a stitch from here, here, and here. All right, so this is what I have done. I've stitched on 3 sides and I left this bit, so you can see that this bit is unstitched. Okay, I'm going to slide my foam in and then we take it from there. Okay, so this is what we have done, and this is where we are at. So you can see that I've stitched just here and the same here. Okay, I've left this place. That'll be sorted out later in a minute. And what I have done next is to fold the bag into 2 equal halves, and then with my tailor's chalk just put some markings here and the same on the other side as well. Okay, open it up and then you know where the center of the bag is when you put it on a fold. Now if you remember, the space to be left in the center is 3 inches. So I'm going to grab my measuring tool, and we know that 1.5 makes 3 inches. I'm going to be marking 1.5 on this end, another 1.5 on this end. So in the end we have 3 inches in total. I'm going to use my pen so that you can see. Okay, so this is the center. All right, so we've marked out our 1.5. We're going to be doing the same thing on the other side as well. Okay, so what we have here for the leather, what I have done now is to cut the leather for the sides and for the sides, and this is 4 inches in width by 10.5 inches in length. Okay, I've done that for 2 sides because one is going to go on this side and the other one is going to go on that side. All right, make sure that they are all equal. We're going to be doing some dots here, and this is what I want to talk to you about. So you're going to paint the corners of the leather like that. Okay, so this side you're going to put it to line up with this side. Okay, and you're going to have a look like this. So from the corner here coming in, you're going to measure half an inch. Okay, and from here going this way, you're going to be measuring 1.5 inches long. So when you have your point in those areas, you just join it with a line. You do the same thing for here. Okay, so I finished stitching it. So I'm finished stitching it. You slash it open like that because you're going to stitch it out. So you slash it open and then you try and trim off the ends. So bring the bag back and try and join it. So you're going to be stitching it at these ends. Okay, let's put the two together. So we match our stitches here to find the center of the bag. And this is the center of the bag, and this is the center of the bag here. Okay, I'm going to match the center line to the center line, right, and put my pegs in place. All right, so this is what we have. Okay, I'm going to run a stitch to hold it together, and then we repeat the same thing on the other end. All right, so this is what we have after stitching. But before we do the other end, I want us to do this flap. So I'm going to fold this flap on top of each other like this, and then continue my stitch here, here, and here. Okay, to close it up before we finish this end, because I figured out if we finish this end, it will be difficult to do the rest. So we'll do here, stitch it on, then we get flaps, hardware. We fit our hardware before we come and close this end off. All right. Okay, so the next thing is to try and insert one of the clasps before we go on to the next one. So I brought my flap over, put some markings on the side, and then it decided where the twist lock is going to be. So it's going to be here. Okay, as you can see, I'm going to put some markings here and here, and I'll do that with a pen so that I know at what point I'm cutting in. Okay, great. So I'm going to get my sharpness, and then I'll make a hole, try and make a hole. Be careful because this is quite sharp. So I'm punching a hole with these sharp edges. And then I'm going to push the legs of the clippers in. Okay, you go in and then bring the other flap over this way and then press it down. All right, so we fitted this end here, and we left to fit the top bit here. I think that would be easier to fit after the bag has been finished. I'm going to leave that for the time being whilst we go over and finish off this side, just as we did for this side. Okay, now there's a second way of stitching off the sides. So you first stitch the bottom bit like that, finish, and then you come and stitch this bit here, and then stitch this bit here. So I've finished stitching both sides of the bag. Now we left to fit this in. So I've traced out the inner box of the other part of the twist lock. I'm going to take it off and I'm going to cut this out with a sharp object. Okay, but before then I placed it on top of this one to be sure that it will fit in before we cut it out. So I'm going to cut it out and then we take it from. So I have the hole cut. I'm going to unscrew these screws, get them out. Okay, I'm going to try and get them out, and then we attach it to this. I'll come in two parts like that. Okay, the plain part is what goes up here, and then the other part goes at the bottom here. But we're going to try and press it down, and I'll show you the reason why you have to do that in a minute. I'm trying to transfer these holes here so that we can punch them open before we screw them in. So here we are with the bag, still waiting to dry at some parts here and here and here and here. Okay, so this is it. So I'm still left with a little bag for the inside, and that is what we're going to do now. And the way we are done, we'll figure out what to do next with the bag. All right, so I want to do the little sandwich bag that is going to go inside of this big bag. I cut 13 inches wide by 15 inches long because that is the measurement of the bag, and I've added my seam allowances to it to have it at 13 and 15. So I added half an inch seam allowance to it. Okay, so I'm going to put it into 2 equal halves like this, and then I'll split it into 2. So I'm going to fold this about half an inch on top of each other. Okay, and with the help of my elastic glue, I'll let it stick down before we run it as on top of the zip. So with the help of my elastic glue, I'm going to spread it all over, and I'm going to fold it at half an inch. All right, so this is what we've done. We finished fitting the zip for the inside bag. I'm looking for some hardware to glam it up a little bit. This is what I'm thinking of using. All right, so this is our little sandwich bag for the inside bit of our bag. I'm going to bring it back and get all these pegs out of the way. Open it up, and it's going to go in like that. Okay. All right, so we have this here. The next thing to do is to attach our handles to the back, and I'm going to be sewing this onto it on both sides. Okay, so this is where we are at fixing the handles, and I have attached one set of the handle. I'm going to show you what I had done. So I'd measured from where the flap is, from this end I've measured half an inch away, and that was where I started with stitching in the flap. Okay, I've done that already. I'm going to be doing this other bit here with you. So you're going to measure half an inch apart, and then you place it there. But once you do the first pair, it's easier to match the second pair with it, and I did it with a doll needle or sack needle, whatever you prefer to call that way. And as you can see, my thread is on 4, so you get 2 ply, or you get a ply, and then when you put the 2 together on a fold, you get it into 4. The main thing is to just to thicken the thread up so that when you're stitching, it's quite firm. So we're going to be doing running stitches with this one, okay, and I'm going to show you what I did with that. So I'm going to try to now position my handle to match the previous one I did, and with my thread knotted, I'm going to go in, and because the punch holes have been done for you, it makes it easier stitching. Okay, so this is basic running stitches, and okay, so we put in our first stitch from here to here. Now we're going to come in again, like that. Okay, like that. So I'm going to carry on this way, and then when I finish, I'll bring it back to filling the other holes. Right, so I've done the running stitches in one direction. I'm going to come back in the other direction to fill in these gaps. Right, so my first stitch is going to go here, like that. So I'm going to carry on and then fill it all in, and then end it up over here. Right, so I have attached props to the bottom of the bag, and I'm going to show you what I did. So from the edge here, I'm coming in, you're going to measure 2 inches and put your markings there. All right, and then you use something sharp to try and go in and make a hole. So you decide exactly where to put your props so that you have them all set at the same place. At this point, precision is very, very important. So I know that my first props was somewhere here for the first. I'm just going to go in, try and push this to make a hole. When I get my prop and push it in the hole. Okay, then go inside of the bag because the prop has 2 legs, but I'm going to place this flat blade on top of it and then spread out the legs of the props. I don't know if you can see it properly, but I'll show you exactly what I've done in the end. Okay, so this is what we have at the bottom of the bag with the props. Just so this can stand properly. I don't know if you can see what's going on in here. I'm going to try and get something to sit in here, all right, so that you don't have to see the messy bit of the hardware. All right, so I've wrapped cardboard with some leather, and this is going to sit in the bottom of the bag to hide all the messy bits. So there we are with the base of the bag looking good, and this is the inner bit of the bag as well. So our bag is done. I'm going to just run some glue here to close these bits up. Okay, so we've come to the end of today's bag making class. I enjoyed it. I hope you did as well. This is a beautiful bag, and it could pass as a handmade bag for sale to make some extra cash on the side. If you enjoyed our video, please don't forget to subscribe and hit on the notification bell to be notified when a new video is uploaded. Until we meet again in our next video, have a lovely day.